the "because I say so" issue. One of the most important principles in effective leadership is understanding that rules by themselves are not enough. Rules need context. And the people we lead need to know not just what to do, but why they're doing it. The moment a leader relies on the attitude of "because I said so," they've moved from leadership into control. And control on its own is an exceptionally poor motivator. When you explain the reason behind a rule, you're doing several things at once. First, you're showing respect. You're acknowledging that your team members are intelligent, capable individuals who deserve to understand the reasoning behind the expectations placed on them. This respect builds trust. It tells people, "I value you enough to let you in on the bigger picture." Now let's talk about motivation. People rarely give their best effort when they feel like they're just checking boxes. But when someone understands the purpose behind what they're doing, how it connects to guest satisfaction or operational efficiency, they become more invested. A rule becomes a shared value, not just a task on a list. Let's say, for example, you have a policy that all guests must be greeted within 30 seconds of entering the restaurant. You could enforce this rule with discipline, with reminders, or even with write-ups. But what happens if you explain it like this? When a guest walks in and is greeted promptly, they feel seen, welcomed, and prioritized. That first moment sets the tone for everything else. And you don't need to spend the rest of the service recovering from a bad first impression. You started with the right foot, with guests who are predisposed to have a great experience. Now, instead of compliance out of fear, you're inviting service from a place of understanding, and your staff buy into the rule because they fully grasp its value and impact. Explaining the why also encourages your team to think critically. If they understand the reasoning behind a rule, they're better prepared to make good decisions in situations where the rule doesn't neatly apply. They start to think like leaders themselves, problem solvers who understand the principles guiding your operation, not just the mechanics. This requires managers to invest more of their time coaching their staff, but it's time well invested, as ultimately they will be surrounded by a team of people able to think critically, who understand how to make decisions that align with their manager's vision, and who won't constantly require their manager's input or freeze every time they are faced with a decision, ultimately reducing the manager's workload and need for input. Suddenly, your daily job becomes a lot easier, and everyone around you grows in the process. And let's not forget about morale. When people feel like rules are imposed without reason, it creates resentment. It becomes staff versus managers. But when rules are communicated with clarity and fairness, and when people see how those rules contribute to a better experience for the guest, the team, or the business, resistance tends to fade. People might still have questions, and that's fine, but now you've opened the door for dialogue, not conflict. Lastly, this kind of transparency builds a learning culture. It tells your team that they're not just there to follow orders, they're there to grow, to understand, and to contribute. You shift from managing compliance to leading a team that truly understands what excellence looks like and why it matters. So the next time you're tempted to fall back on "because I said so," pause. Take a moment to explain the reasoning. It may take an extra 30 seconds, but the impact on engagement, accountability, and team development is well worth it. Live by the mantra, if there is no reason, there is no rule. That's the difference between managing and leading people.